Hello, welcome to the Movie Zone. Today we are recapping Season 1, Episode 4 of Game of Thrones. We're introduced to new characters in Castle Black, while Ned discovers more clues about the previous hand's death. We see Daenerys asserting her dominance while Catelyn decides to make a major move in the Game of Thrones. As usual, spoilers ahead, so be ready. Let's begin. A raven flies in as Bran stands in the courtyard of Winterfell, training with his bow and arrow. He sees the bird and follows it. As he approaches, Bran notices that the mysterious raven has a third eye. He awakens and realizes he's still paralyzed from the waist down. Theon Greyjoy enters with a visitor, Hodor, a stable boy serving in Winterfell. He carries Bran downstairs to meet an important visitor. Turns out, it's Tyrion Lannister. Robb Stark is Lord of Winterfell while Ned is away. Tyrion complains about the lack of a warm welcome. He sees Bran and asks if he remembers anything from the accident. Maester Luwin assures him the boy remembers nothing. He gives Bran a gift, a blueprint of a special saddle allowing Bran to ride a horse. Robb offers him Winterfell's hospitality, but Tyrion declines and chooses to sleep in a brothel instead. As he's leaving, Theon follows him out. "Your master doesn't seem to like Lannisters," he tells Theon. "He's not my master," Theon replies. Tyrion mocks Theon for getting along with his captors well. Your loyalty to your captors is touching. In Castle Black's courtyard, Alliser Thorne interrupts a training session to introduce a new recruit, Samwell Tarly. He's the former heir of House Tarly of Horn Hill. Alliser orders Rast to test his combat skills. Sam falls and immediately yields, but Alliser tells Rast to hit him till he finds his feet. Jon intervenes and saves Sam from further beating. Khal Drogo's Khalasar has just arrived at the home of the Dothraki, the city of Vaes Dothrak. Viserys complains about the boring aesthetic of the place and calls them savages. Daenerys protests and tells him to stop with the insults. Daenerys asks Jorah his opinion on her brother's ability to conquer the Seven Kingdoms. Jorah points out the Dothraki have never crossed the narrow sea before. In King's Landing, Sansa visits the Iron Throne with Septa Mordane. They talk about Sansa's happy and healthy future life as Joffrey's queen. She recalls how his grandfather and uncle were murdered in this room and asks for the reason why. The Septa tells her to ask her father about these matters. Speaking of the Hand, Ned Stark is leading a small council meeting. The commander of the City Watch, Janos Slynt, has come to report the chaos throughout King's Landing due to the upcoming Hands tournament. Ned instructs Littlefinger to find some gold to pay for more men. He also offers 20 of his own household guards until the crowd has dissipated. Janos thanks the Hand and leaves. As they end the meeting, Ned approaches Grand Maester Pycelle and asks for more details about Jon Arryn's death. Pycelle mentions that before he died, the previous Hand inquired about a book titled The Lineages and Histories of the Great Houses of the Seven Kingdoms. He also kept repeating the phrase, "The seed is strong." Ned borrows the book and leaves the room. As he returns to his quarters, he runs into Arya, standing on one toe as part of her training with Syrio Forel. They talk about Bran and how he can become a lord or sit on the king's council. Arya asks if she can become a lord too, but Ned wants her to act ladylike and marry a high lord. Arya is displeased and returns to her one-toe practice. Up north on the wall at night, Jon and Sam are on guard duty. Jon learns the new recruit has eye problems, plus a fear of heights. Sam tells Jon he was disowned by his father for not being worthy of his land and title. Back in King's Landing, Littlefinger gives Ned a clue about Arryn's death. There's a squire that was knighted almost immediately after Jon Arryn's death. His name is Sir Hugh of the Vale. Ned wants to talk to the knight, but Littlefinger dismisses the idea because of the spies constantly surrounding them. He suggests sending someone he trusts to question Sir Hugh. After that, he advises Ned to stop by an armorer Jon Arryn visited multiple times before his death. Ned thanks Littlefinger for the information and apologizes for distrusting him. He replies, "Distrusting me was the wisest thing you've done since you climbed off your horse." Ned sent Jory Castle to speak with Sir Hugh, but he's too drunk on his knighthood and refuses to talk since Jory isn't a knight. Ned, on the other hand, meets a blacksmith boy named Gendry. He reminds Ned of someone, and as he leaves, he confirms to Jory that the boy is Robert's bastard son. Jon, up north, is telling Gren and Pip to protect Sam during training. Rast hears the conversation and mocks them, saying he'll slice off a side of bacon if Alliser Thorne puts him up against quote-unquote Lady Piggy. During the night, Jon takes it a step further and threatens Rast with his direwolf ghost, telling him to keep his hands off from Sam. The next day, during combat, Rast complies and avoids hurting Sam. Thorne, of course, is infuriated. Viserys is angry at Daenerys for giving him commands. Daenerys points out that she was only inviting him for supper. She even had gifts made for him. Her brother slaps and pins her on the ground. Daenerys grabs one of the gifts and whacks him with it. She stands up, pumped up and ready to throw some hands. Literally, "The next time you raise a hand to me," she says, "will be the last time you have hands." Daenerys speaks with Ser Jorah and admits that her brother won't be reconquering the Seven Kingdoms. Even with an army of Dothraki, he'll never take us home, she says. Jon and Sam are gossiping about their virginity back in Castle Black. 'Cause what else can you do? They immediately return to work when Alliser Thorne enters and narrates his gruesome 6-month ranger mission last winter. It's implied that he was forced to eat his fellow rangers to survive. The Hands tournament is now underway, but the Hand himself isn't around. The joust commences, and we see the fabulous Sir Hugh being impaled in the neck by Sir Gregor the Mountain Clegane, the older brother of the Hound. We learn from Littlefinger the two siblings have some beef going on. Sandor's scars were caused by his older brother shoving his face into burning coals at a young age. Cersei sneaks off and visits Ned in his chambers. She suggests putting what happened on the King's Road behind them, but Ned isn't convinced. They go into a conversation about obedience and taking orders. Cersei tells Ned his older brother was trained to lead, while he was trained to follow. Ned counters, "I was also trained to kill my enemies, Your Grace." Cersei replies, "As was I." Catelyn Stark and Sir Roderick Castle decide to rest at the inn at the crossroads on their way back to Winterfell. They cloak themselves when a familiar face arrives, Tyrion Lannister. He's traveling with Yoren, the recruiter from the Night's Watch. Tyrion recognizes them. Suddenly, Catelyn calls out to all the bannermen of the lords who've sworn fealty to the Tullys, her family, and their allies. She convinces the inn to place Tyrion under arrest and face justice. The sound of unsheathing swords suddenly fills the room, and men surround Tyrion. What do you think about this show? Tell us in the comments below. Check out our other episodes on our channel, and be sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.